Military textbooks teach us that an impenetrable fortress can only be broken by two methods: a grueling, years-long siege to starve the inhabitants, or a catastrophic frontal assault that reduces the walls to smoking rubble. But 3,000 years ago, the most heavily fortified citadel in the Levant fell in a single night, without a single stone wall being cracked, and without a single battering ram hitting the gates. We're taught that King David took the city of Jerusalem through sheer military dominance, marching an army up the sheer rocky slopes. But the historical reality is far more terrifying, calculated, and claustrophobic. The defenders of the city, the Jebusites, looked down from their massive limestone ramparts and mocked David's elite army. They claimed that the cliffside geography was so flawless, even the blind and the lame could hold the walls against an empire. To understand the tactical madness of this operation, you have to look at ancient Jerusalem before it became a holy metropolis. It was a brutal, jagged limestone spur known as the Fortress of Zion. For centuries, the Jebusites had held this ground against every wandering tribe and invading army. The fortress was protected on three sides by deep, vertical ravines, the Kidron and Hinnom valleys. Approaching the walls meant scrambling up a near-vertical scree slope of loose stone, while exposed to a heavy rain of arrows and crushing boulders from above. The Jebusites knew their geography was an absolute defensive shield. They were so confident, they turned their defense into a psychological taunt. They lined the top of the walls with the disabled, the blind, and the injured, shouting down into the valley that David's men would never taste the water inside the city. But every fortress has a hidden pulse. To survive a siege, humans need water, and the only water source for miles was the Gihon Spring, located outside the safety of the city walls, deep down at the base of the Kidron Valley. To protect it, the Jebusites had carved a massive, secret subterranean tunnel system directly through the solid bedrock, allowing them to pull water up from the safety of the citadel. They believed they were completely safe behind their towering fortifications. They were wrong. David did not look up at the walls, he looked beneath them. While the Jebusite guards watched the horizon, a team of elite commandos was sliding into the black belly of the earth, embarking on one of the most audacious, claustrophobic infiltration missions in human history. David did not waste his men in a suicidal frontal charge. Instead, his scouts discovered the mouth of the Gihon Spring, hidden in the valley brush. The biblical record leaves a cryptic, tantalizing tactical order from the king himself: whoever climbs up through the Tsinor and destroys the Jebusites. For centuries, scholars argued over what the Tsinor meant. Some translated it as a gutter, others as a waterspout. But in the late 19th century, archaeologists discovered Warren's Shaft, a terrifying, vertical underground water system carved cleanly through the solid limestone, connecting the Gihon Spring to the fortress above. This was the Tsinor. It was an engineering marvel, but to David, it was an open back door into an unbreachable fortress. The mission was handed to Joab, David's cold, fiercely ambitious military commander. He assembled a small, elite unit of stealth specialists. They stripped off their heavy bronze armor, abandoned their long spears, and prepared to enter a dark, suffocating labyrinth where a single sound would mean instant death. The physical reality of what these men attempted defies imagination. The infiltration began at the muddy pool of the spring. The commandos had to wade through freezing, waist-deep mountain water, moving upward against the dark, heavy current of the horizontal tunnel. The only light was the faint, dim reflection of the moon on wet stone, quickly swallowed by pitch-black darkness as they moved deeper into the mountain. Then they reached the base of the vertical shaft. It was a straight 40-foot vertical chimney of solid bedrock. The physics of climbing this shaft in complete silence were brutal. The limestone walls were not rough and grippable. They were worn smooth by centuries of rushing water, coated in a slick, oily layer of dark slime and wet moss. The air was suffocatingly thin, heavy with the stench of stagnant mud and human sweat. The commandos could not use ropes or iron pitons, as the metallic strike of iron against stone would echo up the vertical chamber like a bell, alerting the guards at the top. They had to use a technique known as chimneying, pressing their bare backs against one smooth rock wall and their knees and hands against the opposite side, using pure, agonizing friction and isometric muscle strength to inch their way upward, foot by excruciating foot. Every movement was a calculated gamble with gravity. The soldiers carried their short daggers and clubs strapped tightly to their bare chests to prevent them from clinking against the rock. Their muscles burned with lactic acid. Their fingers bled as they searched for microscopic crevices in the wet limestone. A single slip, a single loose stone tumbling down into the pool below would collapse the entire mission. As they neared the top of the 40-foot shaft, the psychological pressure increased. The vertical chimney opened up into a steep, sloping upper tunnel that led directly into the heart of the Jebusite city. The commandos could now hear the muffled, echoing sounds of the city above them, the footsteps of guards, the murmur of conversations, the crackle of watchfires. They were standing directly beneath the enemy's feet, separated only by layers of stone and wooden flooring. They waited in the damp dark, breathing shallowly, waiting for the dead of night when the city's vigilance would drop to its absolute lowest. When the midnight watch change occurred, Joab gave the silent signal. The commandos pried open the heavy wooden grates covering the water access points, bursting out from the very floorboards of the city. The Jebusite guards never even had time to draw their swords. The infiltration was so sudden, so perfectly executed from the inside out, that panic ripped through the citadel like wildfire. The commandos rushed the main city gates from the inside, throwing back the heavy wooden beams and throwing the doors wide open. David's main army, waiting silently in the shadows of the valley below, poured through the open gates like a flood. The fortress that defied empires for generations fell in a matter of hours. The walls that the Jebusites boasted could be defended by the blind and the lame were rendered completely useless because the war was fought and won without a single stone of the exterior perimeter being touched. David's bloodless capture of the fortress of Zion completely rewrote the geopolitical landscape of the ancient world. By taking Jerusalem from the inside out, he preserved the magnificent infrastructure of the citadel, instantly turning it into his new capital, the city of David. It was a brilliant psychological victory. It proved to the surrounding nations that no wall was high enough and no fortress secure enough to withstand the tactical cunning of Israel's new king. The capture of the city through the Tsinor became a legendary blueprint for black operations warfare, a stark reminder that sheer defensive mass means nothing if your internal vulnerabilities are left unguarded. The Jebusites placed their faith entirely in what they could see, their massive, towering walls, while ignoring the silent dark beneath their feet. For thousands of years, the secret labyrinth of Jerusalem remained silent, buried under the expanding layers of a holy city's ruins. The smooth, slick limestone walls of Warren's shaft kept the secret of Joab's climb, washed clean by centuries of flowing water. Today, visitors can walk through those very same rock-cut conduits, staring up into the terrifying, pitch-black vertical shaft, feeling the cold moisture that David's men felt on their skin 3 millennia ago. the secret labyrinth of Jerusalem reminds us that history's greatest victories are often won in the spaces we choose to ignore. If you want to dive deeper into the dark, hidden operations that shaped the ancient world, make sure to hit the subscribe button, leave a like, and tell us in the comments which ancient mystery we should infiltrate next. Because sometimes the most world-altering historical turning points don't happen in the blinding light of the battlefield. They unfold in the absolute silence of the deep earth.